Not that long ago, many of you will have watched me give a positive review to Moondrop's last TWS release, the Mocha, only for Moondrop to release an unstable firmware version, which obviously I couldn't address in my review because I'd already posted it. So naturally I wasn't going to make the same mistake with their newest release of over-ear ANC headphones, the Edge, which I've been testing out over the last couple of months. In this, as with all of my TWS and headphone reviews, you're going to hear a sample of how effective the ANC is, but also a sound sample so you can judge what the Edge sound like for yourself. We're also going to put the mics through their paces and see how they perform on calls in multiple different real life scenarios. We'll also look at the design, the build quality and the comfort and see how it compares to some of their similarly priced competitors. But let's kick off with those ANC samples where we were able to set up a binaural mic system both in a busy coffee shop and walking through a busy town centre on the weekend. So you're going to get to hear how effective it is in both of those scenes against some of Moondrop's competitors.
Adaptive ANC. Ambient sound mode.
The reason why I use a coffee shop for these samples is because you've got a lot of indistinct chatter going on around you and it's difficult for active noise cancellation to filter that out, particularly with these cheaper sets. As you heard there, neither were particularly great with voices, although I think the Moondrop was slightly better than the QCY, but the QCY was more effective at general ambient sound. When it came to transparency mode, the Moondrop seems to let more noise through, but the QCY filtered it a little bit, so voices actually sounded a little bit clearer. Next, you're going to hear how they perform outdoors when you're on a daily commute or perhaps just walking around town, with comparisons to a couple of additional products, Earfun's Wave Pro and SoundPEATS Space.
ANC on. ANC on. Noise cancelling.
Outdoors, all of these sets perform quite similarly, with the Edge not that far short of probably the pick of the bunch, the Earfun Wave Pro. Looking at the sound now, where Moondrop tend to punch above their weight, you can see here they've used a beryllium plated 40mm driver with high-res audio supported through the LDAC codec. The Moondrop app allows you to boost the volume through 3 individual gain settings, and whilst there's no custom EQ, they do give you 5 individual presets. The latter 3 presets seem to just make the sound very strange. I don't really understand why Moondrop included these, but thankfully reference, which is the default setting, and extra bass are definitely a lot more palatable. But don't take my word for it, here's another binaural sound sample alternating between each of these 2 presets so you can judge for yourself. marketing material, Moondrop talk about a balanced sound and a natural timbre. And for me, listening to both of those samples, I think it's pretty much mission accomplished. Moondrop have gone for a very different flavour to the majority of their competitors, who at this sort of price point tend to go for a very V-shaped sound, lots of energy and a really boomy bass that will often overshadow the musicality. But that doesn't happen here, and as you heard, instruments were coming through quite clearly. To further underline this point, you can see from the measurements that difference versus the QC-YH3 Pro, Edifier's WH700NB and SoundPEATS Space. They also sound better out of the box than Earfun's Wave Pro, which are pretty mundane sounding until female vocals kick in, and they would tend to be really shouty. Vocals on the Edge, by contrast, are very natural sounding, very smooth, and whilst it can, like the Earfun, lack a little bit of excitement from time to time, as I said previously, that's where the extra bass preset comes in, giving you a little bit of a boost in terms of energy. The only tweak I would have made personally would have been a little bit of extra air in that upper treble to artificially expand that sound stage outwards a little bit. But it's a small complaint in the grand scheme of things. The out of the box tuning is amongst the best that you're going to get under £100. Next, we'll take a look at how they perform on calls. With this, how the mics sound when you've been able to reduce all of those ambient sounds around you and you're in a quiet room. But the next couple of samples will give you a clearer indication of what you can expect making and taking calls in busy real life scenes. And this time it's the busy coffee shop test for the Moondrop Edge. See how they perform on your calls in a busy indoor scene where you've got a mixture of other conversations that are going on nearby. You've got sounds of crockery and cutlery clanging and music playing through the stereo speakers as well. So if you're using these in a busy indoor scene to make or take a call, this is how you can expect them to fare. Now this time we're testing the Moondrop Edge. See how they perform on your calls in a wet and windy outdoor scene. I'm on the way to London Bridge Station here, so I'm simulating how they're going to sound on the daily commute, when you're fighting with the sound of traffic, the sound of the conditions, sirens as maybe you heard in the background there, and all of those things that will complicate your call if you're looking to use these on the way into work, school or college. So we are testing the Moondrop Edge over-ear headphones and how the mic pickup performs in this very busy London Borough Market scene. It's a tough test for any set of TWS or headphones or whatever it is, because there's so much ambient noise going on around you, there's so many other conversations that it becomes a real test to distinguish your voice from those voices which are going on around you. Be interested to see and hear how the Moondrop Edge fares. As you heard, Edge actually do pretty well when it comes to calls. It was only the coffee shop scene really where it was struggling a little bit with those conversations very close by. But in the other scenes, it was perfectly coherent and actually by over-ear standards under $100, fairly good. Onto the design now, and this is where the Edge comes up trumps with a very unique look and feel, setting them apart from their competitors, which tend to just be regurgitated WH-1000 clones. They do feel a little bit stiff when it comes to stuff like the hinge mechanism and the headband adjustment, but the padding to the headband is more than adequate, and the larger opening to the ear cups mean if you have got larger than average sized ears like I have, that you won't feel the cushioning pressing against them. The cushioning on the ear cups is soft and the recoil is about what you would expect. Clamping force is about medium, but like with most headphones, I still had to stretch them out over the arm of a chair in order to get them to sit comfortably. For me at least, they sat comfortably with glasses, although you do lose a little isolation. The shape contours against your head quite nicely as well, and overall is a very pleasing aesthetic as far as headphones go. The only problems I found with the design is that my ears would get really hot underneath those ear cups, much more than pretty much all of the other headphones that I've tested. So on longer walks I found myself removing them for a few seconds just to give my ears a rest. And whilst the 4-button configuration is okay, it's a little bit weird that the volume up button is on the bottom. With pretty much every other set of headphones I've tested, it's the other way round. And without the ability to customize those buttons, it's a configuration you're just going to have to get used to. The buttons are tactile with the multifunction button in the center flush and the other two sticking out a little bit, but it is quite hard to tell. Triple tapping the ANC button takes you into low latency mode, which you can also access via the app. I found this took latency down from about 320 milliseconds to just over 50. meaning that this is perfectly acceptable for a bit of casual gaming. They do support multipoint. You have to pause your primary device and play your secondary device and it kicks in a couple of seconds. It's not on by default though, you have to go into the function settings in the app and toggle the one bring to option. But whilst there's a lot to like, maybe even love about the Edge, there are a few drawbacks. As we mentioned earlier, you can't customize the controls and there's no custom EQ either, something that I would have expected. The single-use battery life is quite short compared to some of Moondrop's competitors. I got just over 40 hours with ANC switched off and about 32 with ANC on, which is nearly half of what you're getting with the SoundPEATS Space. And whilst their 4 hours of playtime from 5 minutes plugged in is useful, you do at least have to remember to plug them in. The lack of wired mode is disappointing as well, especially when you consider that something like the QC-YH3 Pro give you a wired mode with both jack and USB-C. And whilst the Edge come in a very nice, very attractive looking presentation box, which includes a soft case with Moondrop branding, they are priced a little higher than the majority of their competitors, coming in at around £70 or $85. On the other hand, the Edge do have a very unique look and feel that sets them apart from most of their competitors. Their default sound didn't require a great deal of EQ to get it sounding how I want, which is a real rarity when it comes to budget Bluetooth headphones. Meanwhile, the ANC and core performance, whilst not quite jumping off the page, are going to be good enough for the average user. Hopefully you found those objective tests in particular useful. If you did, don't forget to give the review a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Coming up, we'll be looking at Creative's new X-MEMS release, the Orvana Mimi, playing Spot the Difference with KZ's Carol Pro, and seeing if the OnePlus Buds Pro 3 are worth you shelling out more than $100. Thanks for watching, and if you own the Edge, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. For now, it's ReganCipher signing off.